Wish TV is proud to honor teachers in Central Indiana.
She is an inspiration to all of us.
He's always smiling.
Who go above and beyond.
He's done so many things for so many people.
She's inspirational.
Making a difference.
He's always taught me to believe in myself and never get down on myself.
Everybody's biggest cheerleader.
And deserving of recognition for their outstanding efforts in education.
I love the people that I work with. And to know that I've made an impact on somebody's life, it is truly a great honor.
It's an honor. I love what I do, and the kids are the ones who make it work. I'm like just so taken aback because I love them so much. The fact that, you know, they love me just as much just means a lot. Sorry, you're going to have to cut that part out.
And you are our winner.
Oh, thank you so much.
From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Golden Apple Awards podcast, sponsored by Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender.
Hey everyone, Hannah Mordo here. We're extending the conversation after a really fun final Golden Apple surprise for this school year. May's winner is Miss DaMeisha Fleming. She is shining a light on Black history and empowers students. She's a first grade teacher in Indianapolis, but does about every job you can imagine at her school. Her most important role, though, making sure students see themselves in history, the future, and right now. She does so much for these kids and her community that our conversation really needed to go a little further. So I brought Miss Fleming back here on the podcast.
Hi, I'm Bailey at Bailey Wood Mortgage Lender. Our founder and my dad, Mike Wood, understands the importance of family, which is why with our fast turn times, you can focus on your family and enjoying your new home. Bailey Wood has donated over $500,000 to local charities, schools, and our hometown heroes. When you use Bailey Wood, you're partnering with a local family and business that cares about your community.
Hey, DaMeisha, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. I can't wait to just learn more about you and ask how this whole experience went. I do want to touch, though, before we get started, just a bit. On Tuesday is when we had your Golden Apple reveal. And then later on that evening, there was just this devastating mass shooting in Texas. 19 children killed, 2 teachers killed as well. You're in school today. It's Wednesday. How's everybody doing and feeling?
I will definitely say our hearts are heavy. This is something that we think about pretty regularly. It is a drill that we practice often in our schools. And you just hope and you pray that you never have to actually live that drill out. My heart is with the teachers in that building, the students and the families in that building. I cannot imagine or begin to even wrap my mind around what it is that they're feeling. It's heartbreaking. It's saddening. And I just feel like there's nothing that you could really do. We try our hardest to, tell our kids, be quiet. We lock our doors. We try to take the necessary precautions that we can. But still, things like this happen, and it's just mind-blowing and devastating.
It truly is. Yeah, I lived in Connecticut for 3 years, and I've talked to families from Newtown. I remember it so well, and it's just, you think this can't happen. It won't happen again, and then it does. And I just can't put myself in your guys' shoes as educators, having to cope with that, and then also teach and shape these young minds at the same time. So I appreciate truly what you guys do for all of us. Switching gears here a little bit to the Golden Apple. What's going through your head? What's been the response since yesterday's story?
My mind is just blown. I'm excited, beyond excited. I have a 92-year-old grandpa that watches the news faithfully every morning. And so when he saw me flash across the news, it was like, I know that little girl. And that was really great to share that moment with him, as well as the other members in my family. This caught me completely off guard, but I am definitely honored and privileged and blessed to be able to even have this chance and opportunity.
I love that your grandfather saw it and got the reaction. It's, I know, a bit of a whirlwind. We kind of put you guys on the spot. Since it's all happened, you've gotten to decompress a little bit. What's been going through your mind the last few days?
Really just preparing for the end of the school year, looking forward to the things that come next. my students are really, really excited. Just having that recognition. They love that. They were excited to see themselves on the news. So we actually watched it a few times in class, and they just had a great time seeing themselves and even hearing about the things that they have been learning. As we've talked about that Black History Unit on there, they wanted, well, we got to share this. I actually had kids who brought back their Black history books because they're like, we want you to show mine on TV. And so that was really nice.
Yeah, it really hit home, I'm sure, for them, and maybe open their eyes to all the things that you are doing for them, and really to make this, it's more than just your one classroom. This is a lasting impact.
Yes, and a lot of the other teachers around in the building, they've been reaching out and offering their congratulations. And so I even had an administrator, share with me, like, thanks for helping put our school on the map for all the great things that you do. Because a lot of the times I feel like what we do is just so closed into our four walls. And this is the first time that our school is kind of extending beyond just our four walls.
Not only with our Golden Apple, but a few days later, you were recognized by Indianapolis Public Schools as one of 2 Teachers of the Year. There was an elementary and a high school one this year. Gosh, I'm sure that was a whirlwind on top of it all.
Yes, it was. It was like the icing on the cake, if I have to be honest. And then I just still I sit back and I reflect, like, how in the world do you get 2 awards in 1 week? 2 really, really, renowned awards. And I'm just like, I have no idea. Teacher of the Year, I was told that the superintendent was coming in to read a story to my first grade kiddos. So I escorted them up into the library. And then they asked me to take something downstairs real quickly. When I came back up, my entire family was in the library. The superintendent was like, joke's on you. You are our Teacher of the Year. And I'm like, what? So that was really, really great. An awesome experience once again to be able to share that with my family. I am very family centered. People ask me a lot, like, how do you connect so well with your kids and things like that? My students know that from 8:35 to 4:05, your last name is Fleming. We are one big family. And so a lot of them do look at me like a relative. A lot of them will call me mom instead of Miss Fleming sometimes, or sometimes I'm that auntie or that big sister. So I bring my concept of family into my classroom. So, yeah.
There you go. Sorry, I muted myself on accident so we can make sure we hear you. I completely gathered that from talking to all the kids. It wasn't prompted, and yet everybody was like, she's like my mom or my auntie. They really felt that connection. I also hope that that you winning Teacher of the Year with IPS and then our Golden Apple, those were just separately happening that happened to convene on the same week. And we realized, oh, we picked her and you guys also picked her. And so that means that, you're clearly doing something right there. And I think that a lot of people are recognizing it and hoping to emulate it. I think it stems from that love in your classroom, that family feeling that these kids go to class and they know they're loved while learning. I think that that's huge with our kids. You obviously, speaking of family, we didn't realize until we were talking to you after the surprise that you had just lost your dad. And so I am so sorry to hear that. I can't even fathom, but I hope that this helped a little bit in what's been probably a hard time for you.
Yes, very, very traumatic, just with how everything began to unravel, and that I was actually in the classroom teaching that day. My mother is up in Anderson and some of my siblings are up in Anderson. And so she drove down here. It was the day that I found out that I placed in the final 6 for Teacher of the Year. So I wasn't even named the final one yet. I thought my mom had driven down here because, once again, I come from a very supportive family. So I'm like, surely you could have waited until I got off of work. And so I was in the middle of teaching, asked to leave my classroom for a moment. Didn't even know my mom was in the other room at the time. Somebody came in and said, hey, I need to come in and cover you for a while. And I'm like, why? I thought maybe it was a parent of a kid, maybe they needed to talk about something. So I go into the office and my mother and my two brothers were there. And she had informed me that my father had passed. And so to be able to have to walk back into the classroom after that news, to just kind of pack up and to make sure my kids were taken care of before I transitioned out of the building. It wasn't easy, but I could tell when I walked back into the room, the kids kind of since the shift, because we are very much so connected. I told them, I said, I'll be back. I'm going to go take care of some family things. And so that night I reached out to the parents. We used Class Dojo to let them know that I would be out for a few days. Because a lot of the times when you're dealing with children in our area, they come with a lot of trauma. And so I didn't want to just leave. I had to have that closure. I had to communicate to those parents and let them know I am coming back. I'm not gone, because a lot of times we have such a huge turnover rate, with teachers. I didn't want them to think that I had, completely left them, but I had to go and handle some family business. So it was a tough time, but family makes it, okay, because you're not going through it alone. And then I had my best friend. She was there. She actually came down from Anderson and ended up staying the whole week with me as we, kind of took care of our father's estates and cares and different things like that. So we're still in the process of getting things situated with him. I feel like every day I'm like, okay, this is great. Golden Apple, Teacher of the Year. And then, we're still getting phone calls about different things that we have to take care of, because it was literally just a couple of weeks ago.
I can't even imagine. I'm so sorry. I did see, and I could get that feeling from you, really, while you're going through something so hard, still being there for your students after, the group hug. And then you had one student that you said was also lost her father, and the two of you connecting over that. And I think it just shows your commitment that in the midst of what had to be one of your hardest days, you're thinking about those kids and making sure that they don't feel abandoned and that they know you're there for them.
And even the next day, I left the one day, the next day, I believe it was like a Thursday, our students were getting ready to go on their very first field trip to the Children's Museum. And I was trying to figure out every way to show up to that Children's Museum for my students. But I made sure that all of their things was ready to go. I had to reach out to a couple of my colleagues, Melissa Wiseman, I had to reach out to her and just ask her to help, break my kids up into groups so that they can enjoy their field trip. And so when I came back, they were like, you missed the field trip. I said, I know, we're going to go on one more before the year ends. So I was able to take them to the zoo, actually last week, right before school ended. But yeah, it's a very... You have to be transparent with your students. I think they have to see you as human. I am not the knowledge knower. I am not the teacher in my classroom. I let them know that I'm a learner just like you. And I think that when you have that relationship with our kids, I think they begin to perform for you in the ways that you need them to.
I think there's an element of just having respect for another person, even no matter how young. They get that. They see that. I have a 3-year-old and I try to be on a level playing field and there's respect. Now I might be the adult and you might be the child, but there is having that mutual respect and being honest with them. I think it really does go a long way. You're transforming the way that students learn, I think, too. And we really highlighted and wanted to highlight the Black thematic unit that Black History Thematic Unit that you put into place. How'd you come up with that? And I couldn't include the whole process of what it includes in the story. So tell us a little bit more about it, what it looks like.
So it started with just me reflecting on my own pedagogical beliefs about what I believe teaching is and who we teach and all of those things. I knew without a doubt that I wanted to be in Indianapolis public schools teaching and serving. I needed to teach children who looked like me. And so I didn't have that growing up. So I saw that need. So my Black History Unit came from my love of just myself and me identifying myself. And I thought, surely if it helped me define who I am, it could also help my students that I'm teaching. I actually started this when I was up in 4th grade, where we got to highlight some figures. But when I came down to 1st grade, I said, I need to make this a longer unit. And even thinking, I'm constantly revising. I think that's what great educators do. We're constantly reflecting and revising. So even for next year, I have plans for that. But the Black History Unit starts with us taking a journey over into Africa. The students are over in Egypt, where they look at the pyramids, and we look at pharaohs and the mummification, and just really giving them the exposure to different cultures other than our own. And we look at the geography there. We study the 7 continents, and they end up loving the 7 continent song that we sing, and we come up with dances that go along with that. And then once we come back, I've showed them a slave ship, and we make it back over to North America, and we talk about that time period. And we look at inspirational figures such as Harriet Tubman, Henry Box Brown, and how they made a way out of no way, and how we are some of the best inventors and secret keepers of all time, because we were able to use that Underground Railroad. It has always been my desire to take my children to the Cincinnati Museum, where they can go to the Underground Railroad Museum. But that is something I am still in the works of trying to get that finalized. After that time period, we look at our civil rights movement, where they meet a little girl named Ruby Bridges, and they can see the relationships there. She was in 1st grade, just like they're in 1st grade. We look at Dr. Martin Luther King, and we look at Rosa Parks and different things like that. And then after that time period, we ended up with our just inventors and our entrepreneurs. Just yesterday, we looked at spending money in the Black community. The Tease Me Cafe, because it is in our Butler Tarkington area that's owned by Tamika Catchings. And we talked about the importance of investing our dollar within our community. We looked at the Madam C.J. Walker, and we talked about Madam C.J. And then I actually ended it with my dad, who has passed away. My dad owned a shoe shine business down at the 5th Third building. And so it was crazy, because I asked the kids, what was the need that we see within our community right here? And one of the kids said, I would like to shine some shoes, because my dad has a video on YouTube where he was interviewed, and he ended up like shining shoes for famous athletes and the owner of the Utah Jazz. And he was sharing his love of shoe shine that he did for over 30 years. And so to see the kids, like, they got to see him and hear him. And once again, we're just kind of bringing that transparency into the classroom. And so it was quite interesting to see their journal entries yesterday of what they thought the need was in their community.
What were some of their entries?
One said that they needed a Walmart, which is true, because this area is kind of sort of in the food desert. Mm-hmm. There's no groceries. They just recently built a crew car wash, but we don't have a close grocery store. One of them said a McDonald's. She was like, because I love it. So she was like, she doesn't want to get rid of that. She wants to keep it there. My kids love the gas station. More places for kids to be a kid. Mm-hmm. They love to go out to like your Sky Zones and your movie theaters and different things like that. But the reality is a lot of them have to travel quite a distance to get to those things. And so to have those things more accessible would be nice for them.
Yeah, I completely could see that. I think there's a lot we can learn from our kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, you were talking about your dad and his business and how that moment even came into light for you just talking to your kids the other day, or was that today, yesterday? Yesterday. So talking to your kids yesterday, you think obviously your dad's got to be on your heart and mind through all of this. If he's looking down, what are you hoping he's thinking?
I wish that I could share these moments with him. Without a doubt, I knew his love for his children, me and my siblings, and especially the bond that he and I shared. I am the only one out of the 4 of us that actually carried his last name. So a lot of the times, a lot of people would think that I'm adopted, or that my mom had, multiple fathers, but that's not the case. We all have the same parents. I am just the one that somehow got to carry on the name. Him and my mother never told me how that happened. That was like one of their best kept secrets. So I feel like I shared a relatively special bond with my dad. And so I brought him into my classroom. I made a Build-A-Bear when I was away. So when I came back to school, that's kind of how I introduced it to my kids. I brought the bear in and the kids got to, go around and pass the bear around. And then if you push his paw, it's my dad singing happy birthday to me. And what I found out was just having the bear here in the classroom, a lot of times the kids will say, hey, can I come and hang out with Damon for a while? And they would want to take him to lunch and take him to recess. And I don't know what made them do that, but I would say that it's because they too have felt a loss somewhere. And even the day that we talked about it, they talked about grandma that's gone. They talked about, obviously one of my students lost her dad. And so we connected. And so when it came time to teach the reading and the math and all of those different things, it was just like, Miss Fleming truly has my best interest at heart. She's not just here, collecting a check. It's truly, what do our kids need and how can we meet them where they're at?
And they know, they can tell.
Oh, yeah.
You're just so inspiring. And I hope that, it's hard to be a teacher right now. The past few years certainly have been hard for teachers. And we need more of you. Any advice to anyone out there that's, maybe thinking about it, or maybe why it is an important job that people should consider?
Yeah, it is very crucial. We have the ability to impact not only the present, but also the future, and even kind of reframe their connections with their past. And so I feel like teachers, we are hope givers in a sense. I will say, if you're considering the teaching profession or entering into this realm, or maybe you're here and you're thinking about leaving or staying, I will say that our children needs us. And I believe the children that I serve need us the most. And every day, we have high days, we have low days, but at the end of the day, I know that the relationships are unbreakable. I just saw my 4th and 5th grade class graduate on Monday, and I actually fell out crying. I took a picture with them. It was about 12 kids. That was my very first class that I ever taught, and now they are transitioning into high school. And it was like the things that I was talking to them about in 4th and 5th grade. They're like, Miss Fleming, I'm about to go to college, and I said, yes, you are. And I said, high school means every class counts. You don't have time to waste. My students knew from the very beginning. I told them they were very smart, very intelligent. So our kids need us. They genuinely do. Even when they might be acting up and having all this stuff going on, they still expect to see you. They still expect to hear from you. And I would say just stick it out. Find your 2 or 3 that you want to, invest in and have that lasting impact on, and really see it through.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Bailey, a Bailey & Wood mortgage lender. Our founder and my dad, Mike Wood, understands the importance of family, which is why with our fast turn times, you can focus on your family and enjoying your new home. Bailey Wood has donated over $500,000 to local charities, schools, and our hometown heroes. When you use Bailey Wood, you're partnering with a local family-run business that cares about your community.
Once again, I'm Hannah Mordeau from Wish TV. Every month, we take your nominations for amazing Central Indiana teachers, making a crucial difference in our children's lives. We hear their stories and surprise one winning teacher in class with our friends at Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender. Every month, the winner gets a Golden Apple Award trophy, a $500 cash prize, and a nomination video all about their hard work. At the end of the school year, we also crown one grand finale winner. We've had 9 fantastic teachers this year, but only one will get $1,000 and another trophy. You can find out who is our winner during the Golden Apple Special on Wednesday, June 8th at 6:30 on Wish TV, or listen here for the next winner on our All Indiana Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.
The Wish TV Golden Apple Awards Awards podcast, sponsored by Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender. Nominate a teacher and learn more at wishtv.com now. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast and discover even more great podcasts now on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.